Welcome to the Rugby Bits podcast, and we have finally reached the end of the URC season. We've got to week 18. We have our 8 quarterfinalists. Congratulations to teams in all of the countries except for Italy, unfortunately. We're going to talk through that. We're going to talk through the last weekend of matches and the permutations, start looking a little bit at the quarterfinals, and we're going to also just cover all of the other stuff happening around the rugby world. Today, I've got Kooks and I've got Shaun today. We are all chomping at the bit to talk about this rugby. I'm going to check in first. Shaun, how are you doing this wonderful Monday afternoon?
I'm good. I'm good. The cold is setting in.
Hmm.
Yeah, just little. It's like that shot across the bow, just to let you know that winter will come, but we'll give you a little bit of sunshine. But other than that, what a weekend of rugby. I will tell you something. I can't wait to pick Cooks' brain about the Sharks because I was actually watching a Premiership game at the time and I recorded it. And then I saw Twitter and social media was absolute chaos. Everything, even the chat groups and everything was just a shit show. So I just went and deleted it straight away. I didn't even watch. I didn't even try. I didn't try.
Kooks, how did that make your weekend watching the Sharks go?
So, first of all, how's it, guys? I'm all good. I've got this theory on the Sharks, which I'll dive into later. I don't care about how they play as long as they win. I'm not doing this thing. We've done this since the week one, trying to figure out. I don't have the mental capacity and the mental gymnastics to do it. I saw people. Listen, it wasn't a great game at all. At all. It was a tough watch. It was just one of those ones where like, I'm happy for you to blow the whistle. But like, let's just make sure that we get 4 points and we third. So that's what I was saying. I saw guys on Twitter going off about the Sharks and like saying like it's not good enough. I'm like, guys, like we can't fight about the same thing. Let's just win. We got all these Springboks, all this experience. We can just stumble our way into a URC title win. We can roll our way into there, figure it out from there. There's no need to be like I see people getting upset like the Sharks still don't have a brand of rugby. How are they gonna play? Guys, we tried to solve this in September. We had no answers. It's May now. So clearly what are we doing here? Let's just sit down and just hope it gets to 80 minutes and the Sharks have one bar point. That's all that matters now.
Yeah, we will get into that, but let's start. We'll try to go through things as chronologically as possible because each match affected the other. There was a lot of permutations and calculations flying around. So let's start in Cape Town with the Stormers beating Cardiff 34 points to 24. I think the big news in this game was the return of Manie Libbok, um, him coming into the team for the Stormers to just to get and at the right time just before the URC quarterfinal start. Um, the Storms were able to win 34-24. There were 2 red cards in the game. And I mean, Sasha also was able to come in the second half, had a great cameo. Shaun, yeah, seems like a lot happened. I mean, Cardiff even got themselves a bonus point, and that was almost enough for them to qualify for the quarterfinals themselves. But yeah, I think question number one is, and maybe the question that Dobbo is going to be thinking about for the next 2 weeks is, how did Lebok go? And does that change any plans for Glasgow next week, Saturday?
I think it will. Well, it's gonna obviously because Damian Willems is gonna be banned. I think that's the one thing that everyone needs to come to terms with because
Dobbo
his
once
red
again is
card
avoiding
was
having to make a big call because something always happens when
yeah.
it's all put at the same time. So Dobbo's like, oh, perfect. Sasha goes to 12, or like everything's perfect for me.
I know he got lucky there. Like that has saved him to answering a lot of really crappy questions. And dealing with the aftermath of naming a side with one of them not in it. So I think that's the most important. To answer your question about Mani, he had a good game. He looked good. He got through the whole thing. I think we're so used to seeing guys come back like even with like Ibn or a lot of players, you see them come back and then they go off injured. You're a bit worried about it. Like Tuipulotu went off at halftime this weekend. Everyone started to freak out, but it was clearly a planned move. So Mani played well. I think with Willems out now, it makes the conversation a lot easier, even though you still have 2 guys that are really gunning for 10, where Damien Willemse wasn't. You were happy with him playing at 12. possibly 15. So the big question is, will so Dobbo, we've seen has been very initially wasn't happy with fielding all his superstars. If we think back to the year that they won the URC, he's now come to terms with it. He's not a massive fan of moving guys around, but I think when it comes to Sasha, he and Damien Willemse, he is, and I don't really know how else he's going to do it. The right thing would be to have Mani at 10 and Sasha at 12. I think that's very clear. What it does is it also balances out the rest of the back line and also gives you other very, very good options in game. Sasha has shown, especially when he takes the ball to the line, that he's got that 12 vibe about him too. And we've seen him play quite a bit of 12. So yeah, so I think Dobbo, I think he got lucky in that he doesn't have to make a tough decision. Now we just got to wait and see how long the ban's for, because Willemse could very likely miss the rest of the sort of European season as we know it. There could be a 4 to 5 week ban easily.
Yeah, it's terrible news, I think, from a Stormers and from just a personal David Willemse perspective. And I mean, he's one of the best rugby players in the world, so you want to see him play. Cooks, I mean, I think the Stormers, I mean, they've built their momentum. They've gotten, I think it's 7 out of 8, I think, of the wins in the last 8 games. I think it's more built on their attack than on their defense. Like right now, it just feels like we were worried about the balance early in the season. It felt like the boys were being let to cook a bit too much. And then it felt like it sort of went back. I think it corrected now back into, okay, the boys are cooking enough, and they're going to have to be the ones that have to figure out a way to, beat the likes of Glasgow and possibly Leinster in order to make another URC final. I think if the Storm's going to go far, it's going to be because, their attack is just cooking as much as possible.
Yeah, the attack has been fantastic, and that's obviously the basis on the freakish of abilities of what Sasha was doing. I mean, in the last few games, and then Armani comes back. I don't think there's anyone. I'm willing to put my head in the head is that anyone can hit a cross kick the way better than Mani Labok does. I mean, I feel like it's almost like one per game now. I mean, his cross kicks are fantastic, and you look at the attack. I mean, Sven Hudson-Berg was fantastic in his 50th game at 21 years old. I mean, you got Similani, who looks like he's starting to find some sort of form. Dan to precede him and play, and you're doing all of that, and you might still have still Galant and guys like that. You got to still bring him back in the fold. I think the attack is the way to go. But I must say the pack has been very good as of late as well. Marcel Tennyson has been an absolute revelation at 7.
Yeah.
He's been incredible. Obviously the contract fights and things happening with BJ Dixon. He's sort of come in that mold, and he's probably been the form blindside flank in the last sort of 6, 7 rounds. He's been incredible. So I do think now it's the line out is functioning better. All the issues they had at the start of the year, and also if you look at the Stormers side under John Dobson, the URC, they have tended to peak around this time. So it's not anything new. Like they tend to do peak around this time, I think. But the hard thing for them is, as a Sharks fan, I'm saying this. I'm very happy that we're not playing the Stormers next week, because I just think that's not a game you want at Derby against the Stormers side that is starting to find form, and they've no problem winning in Durban. And now, unfortunately for them, they big Achilles heel this year is that they've not traveled well. They've been, as always, fantastic at the DHL Stadium. They've not toured well, so now they're probably going to probably the second hardest place to win a rugby game outside of Croke Park or Loftus. But it's tough to get a win against Glasgow away from home. So that it does make it tough as defending champs. But the way the Stormers are playing out, I do think they have the quality to maybe do something up there. But I mean, their attackers are fantastic at the moment. And I was thinking about this question before Willemse came out. I think the best way actually is maybe to have Willemse on the bench almost as a player, if you do it in almost going 6-2 and going, you know what, at least you got all your bases covered. Damien can go all over, and you've got one of the best players in the world coming on the bench. So that's the way. If you wanted to have sort of Sasha
This
12,
isn't Leinster, eh?
hey?
The Stormers are not Leinster. They don't bench their best players.
No, but yeah, I think it's a good question to have. I mean, the funny thing is why I lean towards Sasha going to 12 is also because we've seen that Dobbo does like the option of having a ball player at 12. Probably if Dan du Plessis comes back, he goes straight to 13, and then you sort of have Marnie there sort of. I mean, you have Sasha there at 12, so I wouldn't be surprised that he goes that route. I think unless he wants to be a little bit more direct by going maybe Sasha at 10, Dan du Plessis at 12, and then Simon at 13, and sort of just trying to be as direct as possible, maybe kick a bit more, but why change the way you've been playing if it's been working for the last 2 months? If the Stormers don't now get conservative on us, Dobbo, please. Not now in the quarterfinals.
I mean, yeah, it's going to be just such a fantastic battle to see. We're going to have some, if Willemse is playing, we're going to have some level or some sort of combination of Lebok, Willemse, Sasha Feinberg, Gomez Zulu, Hartzenberg, and then Tom Jordan, Sione Tupelotu, Hugh Jones, maybe Stafford McDowell, Cancelier, all on the field at the same time. It's going to be an absolutely, it's going to be an absolute firework of a quarterfinal. So just very much looking forward to it. Love the shout out for Marcel Tennyson, by the way. I think he's really been building up some form. Yeah, I think there's going to be quite a few things for Stormers to answer. The only thing for Sasha at 12, I'm just worried about his small young body and especially running into Sione 2 or being run into by Sione 2 for the whole game. And we know Sasha doesn't fear anything, and then he throws his body there, and that sometimes is to his detriment. So if I was the director of rugby in South African rugby, I would ban Sasha from playing 12. And even put like a tackle cap, like when you have airtime, you only can make 8 tackles a game. After that, yes, get off the field.
You're like,
Then
he's either playing 10 or he's 22 and coming on at 10. There's no other option. And he gets one game at fullback a year.
Pretty much, because he will try to tackle anything and everything that moves. But yeah, I mean, we have 2 weeks to see what happens with Willemse as well, and then how that impacts for the Stormers. And yeah, Shaun, Dobbo might be the only coach that doesn't send like that packet of cookies and coffee to the disciplinary panel for this week.
That's a true story, eh? I agree with you. And he'd probably secretly be happy not having to make that decision for the rest of the tournament. Not that he wants it to be Damien, but very interesting. I'm thinking now when you talk about Sasha 12 and having to deal with Huey Pilatu, not just Sione Tupelotu. I think the right decision would be to have Sasha at 12, especially knowing what we know now. But that makes that 13 decision so much bigger. Like you're going to go with Wandy at 13 and be really top heavy on attack. And not that he defended badly this weekend. I just think I don't know between him and Dan who's the better defender, but Dan is more leaning towards the better defender and Similani more to the better attacker if I had to put them in any boxes.
Yeah.
And then you got to kind of make that decision because you're going to have a relatively, I mean, Sasha hasn't played a lot of 12 this season from what I can remember. He's mostly been 10 or only 10. So then you're going to have someone like that at 12. You're going to have to have Dan at 13, I would think. Sorry, I'm kind of just blabbing on here, but I'm just unpacking my brain.
Look, and Hugh Jones, kind of like, like a, like a Lenny Kitao or someone like that. He'll test you at 13 defensively. So
especially with Sony at 12. That's the thing, is they dovetail so well together. Hugh is really good at picking up where that space is. And Sione is really good at making space. So they're not necessarily always on the same wavelength, but because they do some crazy shit every now and then. They do random stuff. And the thing is they're so good at adjusting. And when Hugh Jones hits a gap, like the one thing he can do is he can hit a gap and he can make it happen. And that's where the problem lies. Yeah.
So that'll be something for Dobbo to figure out. So we can quickly just make note. The next game was Edinburgh Ulster. Sean, we were unsure for a moment if Edinburgh was going to fall on their faces trying to, go through the finish line, but they won quite convincingly with a bonus point. Excuse me, it's a weak team because Darcy Graham scored a hat-trick as well. So they've
The
got
non-line.
Darcy the non-line. So they've got a trip to Loftus, looking ahead of them, and yeah, they qualified for the quarterfinals. I think that keeps Sean Everett at least in the job for at least a little bit longer. So yeah, they won 47-17. Sean, I know you watched the Munster Benetton game. I caught a little bit of it at the end as well. Obviously, we talked about, this could be, it really is like a game that could be on the balance, and Munster have to take their chances because if Benetton just sniffs an opportunity, it could be over. And it was almost looking like that, but geez, Craig Casey, I think, was fantastic this weekend.
Craig Casey, who also the non-line Craig Casey, who I think should be a little bit in that conversation, especially after this weekend. He bailed them big time because Jack Crowley, it looked like he played injured for maybe 30 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. And there was a little something there. And to be fair, Munster haven't really been hitting their straps. Like there are a lot of guys that have been sort of there and thereabouts, but just not really cooking. Like a lot of the guys that you expect to cook. Craig Casey bailed them big time. Tom Farrell was brilliant as well. Yeah, it was interesting. I'm just a bit disappointed in Benetton. Like, yeah, I almost feel like I've had this conversation previously in a knockout game or something close to a knockout game, but these are the kind of games where they need to like put their money where their mouth is. Like all good that they've done through the season, and this is not the first time they've been in this position. They were in it last season as well, and they just can't follow it through, and it sucks because they really had an opportunity to push this far, to put pressure on a Munster side that really could have crumbled. Like they looked like that. Munster look like they're hanging on for their last game, and they know they've got one more left, but they look like they're hanging on for one more. And I don't know, you know what I mean? It really looks like this whole season's been so much for them, from a results point of view, from an emotional point of view, with so many players leaving, with what's happening in Ireland and the Lions and all that. I just thought Benetton, I'd love them to do a little bit more.
Thala, they call us a madman when I said Benetton wasn't making the playoffs this year. It's over, guys. I've been expecting from Benetton, and they've not delivered. And I'm not saying that because that I want them to so badly to come through, and it's frustrating because they get close and then they find a way not to. Like I know in the Champions Cup they got the quarterfinals, but in the URC you're thinking to yourself like this is the year maybe get into a top six, top seven. I mean, geez, beat out Edinburgh, beat out Scarlets, but no, I mean, I'm not surprised at all because I said this in September. This is going to happen, Sharky. I don't know what you're expecting from them. Why are you expecting it? And Ulster, Thala, they called us mad when Ulster wasn't make it as well. Remember,
you guys, you're the oracle.
We were fighting.
You guys have made some incredible calls, and I'm so glad you brought it up because I was totally going to bring it up. I'm sitting here with two guys that have picked Ulster's demise from way back when. And to be fair, I forgot that you said that about Benetton, but you absolutely did. You reminded me. Yeah. And I think that was even more left field than Ulster not making the playoffs.
To be fair, just to correct us and to have integrity, in the pod where we did our tiers, we had Benetton as playoff locks, along with the Lions. So that obviously didn't work out well. But I think a few weeks later, I think we came back on another pod, and Kooks was like, because Benetton lost, I think, to some Welsh team, and Kooks was like, "Nah, I'm done with Benetton. Like, I'm not doing this anymore." So Kooks sold his stocks very early and quickly. I've kept mine. I'm still gonna keep a few. I'm gonna sink with this ship because I don't know a good thing. The teams that we got the most strong, obviously, apart from the Lions and Benetton, was Scarlets, who we had like as our second last team, because obviously we were like, no, we're on the Dragons vibe. Dragons are going to improve. They're going to be third last. They're going to be beating Zebra and Scarlets, and obviously Scarlets have been fantastic, but we'll get to them in a bit. But yeah, for Benetton, yeah, I'm bringing the grade average down because I was still holding on to Benetton making it to the quarterfinals.
Nah, I just think no, like look at the log. I mean, Ulster. I mean, thank goodness. I mean, we said because China's rationale was so right. We said there's always one top side that tends to crumble the year after, and they sort of find themselves in the mix. But yeah, the Lions and then Benetton Menace look like losers. Yeah, Rian, your team that we believed in said, look at like, come on now, come on, man.
We believed in them more than the Sharks.
But you guys even said Ulster weren't even going to make the Champions Cup, and that's what pissed on batteries. Like
Yeah,
that was you guys can get whatever you want to get wrong about Scarlets and Benetton. When you call Ulster to drop so far down that they don't make the Champions Cup, that's powerful.
we're right because Bailey made a Challenge Cup. Well, I think everyone makes a Challenge Cup. Not saved
By
them.
default.
Yeah.
Listen, even if you lose in the Champions Cup, you go into the Challenge Cup. Like it's a shit show.
So yeah, Munster obviously getting that win. Yeah, that qualifies them. Benetton basically were out. Weird decision near the end where Benetton had a penalty with about 6 minutes to go on like pretty much 48 meters away from the goals, and they choose to kick it, even though they're 9 points behind and they need one try for a bonus point. And they could have given themselves 5 minutes to try and get that bonus point because it will get them 2 bonus points actually if they scored a try. And those 2 points would, probably not been enough because of points difference, because they had much worse points difference than Scarlets, but at least could have given themselves a chance there. So I didn't really understand that decision making. And yeah, I mean, Benetton are basically Italian Leinster, like or a good majority of the national team is there. So we need to expect a lot more from Benetton. Like at the very least, you need to be making the playoffs. And I think it shouldn't be crazy to expect at least a top four. So this is really disappointing from them. And something needs to change because the problem is you're losing Juan Ignacio breaks next season. He's going away, I think, to Toulon, right? And Menoncello still has rumors that he's going to La Rochelle. Like, if you lose both of those players, I think it's over, basically, for, like, really being a competitor next season. So, yeah, it is
And
disappointing.
Fekitau is also not tied down. I think his contract ends and it's not secured yet. So you're losing three huge midfielders.
Yeah. So you have to start again now. And they had a chance against Cash. They could have got themselves into a quarterfinal in the Champions Cup. They had a chance now with Munster and throughout the season, the URC. So yeah, it is a disappointment for Benetton. So we have to close the book on them. So Saturday, Bulls beat Dragons 55-15. I don't think there's too much to say about this game being Dragons. I think they had about 20 people that were injured or had injuries. I mean, I too had Loftus fever when I was playing Affies back in the day when I was in school. So I understand that. Shaun, I think you watched this game. I think the things to note for me were Namataba was man of the match, so congratulations to him. I mean, just another option that Jake White just shows that, I mean, I could go there if I need to. Yeah, I mean, I think the Bulls kind of mixed things up in their team and maybe were like sort of rotating and resting some players, but obviously more than enough to beat the Dragons.
Yeah, I think the loose trio is going to be very interesting for Jack White moving forward. There's going to be some interesting balancing acts that need to happen. Like, what do you want to do? Because I think Marcel Coetzee probably should be in the conversation of getting a look in somewhere, possibly at 8. Like, depending on what you want. Like, do you want to have some big industrial human carrying the ball up? Like, he's your guy. Hanekom's a little bit different to that, but it's going to be difficult to drop Hanekom. Namataba was excellent. Obviously, he got man of the match because he's been freaking, I don't know, treated like he's got leprosy this whole season. So, yeah, like, I mean, he's going to come on and he's going to cook. Obviously, we know he's good enough to do it. So, yeah, it changes the conversation. Like, I don't know what's going to happen and how they're going to balance it, but Jake White's going to have to try and figure something out. Super emotional day. at Loftus first weekend after the passing of Cornal Hendricks, and it was crazy. Willie, obviously, I don't know if they went to school together, but I know that they played age group together, so he was really holding it back. Yeah, quite an emotional time for I think all of us. Like just to wonder off, like Cornal Hendricks was that guy when he was playing sevens, he was ridiculous. And he was playing for the Cheetahs, and then he went in onto Springboks, and he basically was still dominating. Like, he was dominating Super Rugby, he was dominating sevens, and then he went on to play Test Rugby, and it really looked like he was going to dominate for a long time. Like, this is the kind of guy. Rassie Erasmus would have given anything to have someone like him in his squad, especially in 2019. A guy that works really hard, a guy that like big and strong and fast, and yeah. So it sucks. I very fortunately got to meet him and spend a couple of weeks with him. He came down to Hammy's to train the one preseason before he went to the Bulls. It was during that time when he was trying to find clearance. The Toulon deal fell through because of his health, and then there was opportunity for him to come back, and then he came to Hammy's for a little bit of preseason before he went up. I think he went to go play Gold Cup rugby in the Boerland, and then after that, Bulls, and then back to Boerland for provincial rugby. But what an amazing guy. And I'll never forget his story. He's just amazing. And it's just looking at social media and everything, just everything ex-players were saying and the photos they had, like he must have been an amazing person to be around. Like imagine going on tour with someone like that. Like it would have been just would have lit up the room every single time he walked into it. So big loss.
I think with Sharky, you hit the nail on the head. I think the biggest story coming in the Bulls camp was obviously the loss of Cornal Hendricks and the resolve of the players to come out there. So obviously you can see a lot of the guys are close to him and you're doing social media and it's tough. I mean, you still got to go out there a week later and play rugby. The guys have still got a job to do. And yes, it may have been against the Dragons, but I mean, you're playing with all these emotions and it's still hard to have to go out there and play rugby. I thought it showed that the character in the Bulls' performance, how great they were, was a great tribute to Cornal Hendricks, and it was also the flowers and things that they allowed fans to put up even before the game. I thought that was amazing. You know what they had on his call walking out, and like or like it wasn't just a minute silence. You know, it was really special, and it shows the impact that he had. You know, at the Bulls and how loved he was, and I was saying on Twitter, I put a post and I said one of my favorite Cornal Hendricks memories is probably his last stint at the Bulls when he sort of reinvented himself into a center, and I thought that was really cool. I was playing at 12, and like when on earth is he, and that was so great to watch. I mean, unfortunately, his Bok career got cut short, being one of the victims of a peak Julian Sevilla. But he's not the first wing or the last wing to have suffered the wrath of that. But I mean, what an incredible guy off the field as well, and what a story. But I think with the Bulls, I think that's an incredible performance for them to do that. I think for them to talk rugby, it's just they've also you talk about form sides. They've found a different gear. They had a fantastic tour. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, we said coming back, having to go such a tough tour and find a way to get to second. They did that. Every box they needed to tick, they've ticked in this run through. Now they found themselves second. It's not going to be easy to play at Loftus. Potential SA derby in the semi-final between Bulls and Sharks. So that's something that'll be very, very exciting. With the way the URC is going, there's a good chance the final could be either at Loftus or Durban, since Leinster, I don't know if they're going to revoke this, if they're actually going to feel like playing a final this year, hosting one. But yeah, I think the Bulls have been fantastic in this run in, and yeah, let's see how they go in 2 weeks' time. But yeah, I think they definitely have proved they're probably the best South African side at the moment, and I just like you just don't want to go to Loftus unless you're the Glasgow Warriors and play a playoff game there.
Yeah. Look, yeah, I think on the Bulls front, the main questions are, I showed you alluded to it. I mean, ultimately replacing Outflow and how that affects your balance of the loose trio. Ronald here seems like he's got that 7 jersey. There's a battle, I guess, between Kutsia and Van Staden for 6. And I mean, you can sort of play around. Amakaba also comes into that equation as well. Cam Hanekom obviously at 8. So we'll see what Jake does. I mean, I think for Edinburgh, they do like to play, it's ball in hand and play some ball. So that maybe does say, okay, have Marco van Staden start, have Kutsia maybe come on off the bench and sort of go double fetcher when you need to. The other question or the other hole is, well, another hole seems to be filled because Gerard Steenkamp has come back to training, so he should be back for the quarterfinal. The third hole is Jan Goosen, and I mean, Keegan Johannes is doing his best to fill in there. I mean, yeah, I think like we discussed last week, Sean, he's doing as best as he can. So I think at this moment, this is as good as it will get. It's just now about everyone around and making sure that they can limit the mistakes so that he can play as best as possible. Just, yeah, I mean, I think just on Cornal Hendricks, I think it says a lot about a man how people talk about you, like obviously when you go. And yeah, I think that just shows the quality of a man that he was beyond being a teammate and a father and everything else. Like he's just a quality man and he's really left an impact on the people that he was interacting with as well. And yeah, like Quick said, his second act, I guess if you want to call it that, in the Bulls, just randomly just turning into a very effective, like almost like low key, we were like, could he be a Springbok crash ball 12? Yeah, that's just a fantastic sort of like cap to his career that, I mean, he was, if you get yourself to like a handful of Springbok caps, I mean, you're fantastic. But anyone, maybe one season you can get yourself to that. You get yourself to at least 10. To me, you're like, okay, you're legit. And he got himself to like I think 12 at the end. So yeah, also shout out to the Sharks for their tribute with the warm-up
Wow.
jerseys as well. So yeah, I think it was a really good celebration of this man, and yeah, may he rest in peace. And yeah, just prayers to his family as well. I mean, he leaves. I think his children are still under 10, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, obviously it's quite devastating for them as well. To move from that, unfortunately, we'll have to keep the mood somewhat still sad, but a different kind of sad because we need to talk about the Sharks. Cooks, you were our intrepid reporter that was looking into the Sharks game, this 12-3 victory. So, Cooks, I think we've talked about it a few years ago about, worst games of rugby you've ever had the misfortune of watching. I think the Red Sharks game came up. That's
Oh, the Rebel
6-0.
Shark. Oh, jeez, yeah, nothing will beat that. That's
Okay, so it's not that bad.
no, it's not that bad. So it's funny. Okay, so uh, the positive thing from the Sharks game one is the Sharks won, ended up third. Eben played 80 minutes. So the Sharks are interesting in an interesting place. Now I feel like it's like as bad as like everyone's how can I put this to Sharks like everyone goes like you want to have yeah, tell us like enough of this. I don't have no time for the Sharks. This leaves us.
I can't see this. I really can't.
But like I think Shark of the Sharks, the best way is like you say with the side that wins when they're not playing well. It seems like it's been testament for the Sharks for a bulk of the season. But I genuinely when I say to you when I watch them is I now is they just know how to win rugby games. I think that's the craziest thing to say about the Sharks is they know how to win rugby games. They've enough experience there. They've got enough ways, and they've found different ways to win rugby games and ways maybe it's not been as conventional as it should be. You look on the tour, where they come back from the brink of anything. You look at sometimes where they're up by 30 points and they've got to hold on to a game they've got to hold on to a victory. Yes, there's been some performances where they do score a few tries. So the one thing I've learned about the Sharks this season is that they know how to win rugby games. It may not be a pretty 95% of the time when they do it. It's gonna be stressful in some sort of way. But on the weekend, it's even they called it a bit of a test match. It did sort of turn into a bit of a slog, and it wasn't pretty. The quality wasn't great. But one thing I would say about the Sharks is there was not. It never felt like they were not in control of that game. They were, but you just kind of hope that like eventually the quality would come through. That we'll get a few trials. I mean, it wasn't it wasn't pretty, but the Sharks have managed to get themselves into third place, and you look at that, and they've got themselves the playoffs. And I think it's a side. Tell we know from watching the NBA that you get certain sides that are just built to get in the playoffs, and so the league phase is kind of boring to them. Well, I think with the Sharks is they want to get in a situation. They've got so much experience. There's guys coming in that you've got enough. There's so much there's so much IQ in that side, and guys like Sia and the Earbins, Lukhanyo Arms, and all those guys, multiple World Cup winners, that you're kind of hoping that once they get in the playoffs, they can find a way to win. They've found ways to win all season. It hasn't been pretty, but now when you get to the playoffs, it doesn't have to be pretty. It just has to be effective. And they are at home against Munster, which is a tough one. Munster have got a great record in South Africa. They don't mind coming away from home, especially they don't mind coming down here as underdogs as well, which they will be in 2 weeks' time. So, but they'll have a lot to play for as well. So the Sharks and Munster for me are kind of in the same WhatsApp group, whereas Munster probably have not lived up to the expectation this season, but they're a side that knows how to win, especially away from home. They've got enough quality. They can make it not pretty as well. I mean, in the playoffs, in a playoff game like Jack Crowley, for example, you can step up a Conor Murray, so they have enough quality to hurt the Sharks. But for the Sharks, I'm just glad that Eben got through unscathed. We ended up at third. We're hosting a knockout game. So, oh, man, like that's the best thing to say.
The thing, like, I didn't watch the game. The thing, though, has been a hell of a lot of chat on socials about it. But if you had to compare the Sharks URC season last year to this year, it is literally chalk and cheese. Like, I think when you watch it week in and week out and you see the players that they've got, you're like, we really should be seeing better rugby. But when you look at the fact that they've won 3 times more games, they're finishing third. There was a time when we were worried where I still said the Sharks have got they've got one slip up, and then after that they have to win every game to make sure they're guaranteed fourth. Here they go and they finish third. Like it's this. If you had to look at it, if you just had to look at the numbers would paint a very, very different picture. And I think that's the one thing. Also, and I also think I mentioned it, I either thought it and not spoken it or vice versa, but the Sharks also feel like, with Rassie and the Springboks, he's always big about like the emotional value, like get into a fight, like be in a fight. If you're going to get in a fight, I know you're going to get away with it. Like the Springboks are never like very seldom like the old All Blacks who will give you 70 points. Like the Springboks don't play like that. Like that doesn't motivate them. I almost feel like the Sharks need to be in a constant arm wrestle. I feel like that's trickled down where the Sharks have to be like they have to be backs against the wall if they're going to do anything. So yeah, it's interesting. But if you look at their season last season versus this season, it is very, very different. But we still have the same feelings inside. That's the one thing. Like inside, we still feel exactly the same. We don't feel any different.
But like Shoki, this is where I do agree with you a lot in terms of where you started. Is the Sharks have drastically improved from last season. I mean, there was a stage where the Sharks went about like 6, 7, or even 8 weeks without winning a game, and they rallied at the end, sort of, and won the Champions Cup, Challenge Cup, which sort of masked a very bad season. But so that's the thing. So there is improvement, and I think the frustrating thing with the Sharks is obviously there's added expectations and added pressure because of the players they have, and that's great. But in a funny way, in terms of results, they are going in the right direction. Is just you've changed coaches. Plum comes on board, struggle after now. This year you sort of it's his first year and things are going forward, and you're like, okay, cool. So we're actually moving forward. We're third now compared to where we were last year. And we're back in the Champions Cup again. We're hosting a playoff game. So pretty much the only side in South Africa standing is the Bulls and Leinster. So those are the only sides. The Sharks will be saying, okay, those are the guys that we are up to, which as a Sharks fan, you're taking that early in the season, but obviously the frustration is the style of play. But so my thing is also the Sharks. That's why I said to you, like, at the start of the show, I'm not gonna keep getting frustrated. Like, I'll say, "Oh, the style of play is this." They're winning, and that's important at the moment. Like, let's win first, and they're building up momentum. And again, like I said, they know how to win rugby games. That's the one thing I've learned. You see all the Sharks that is they keep finding ways to win rugby games, different ways to win rugby games, and they've got enough quality that when they get into a knockout game, bar the Bulls and probably maybe Leinster, there's not many sides with better players on the pitch, and who can match them in terms of. Probably only Leinster in terms of the international quality they'll have on the pitch. And so that's a big thing. I mean, that's the likes of like Ron Williams are back, and Lukhanyo Am hasn't come back yet. And but everyone seems to come back, and it's not looking pretty. But the Sharks, I mean, they've won 4 or 5 straight, so they're in the right place to be. And yes, you expect them to sort of beat Munster at home. There's expectations there, but now we'll see, can they go the next level now and win under pressure?
Look, I think it's been an interesting season for the Sharks. Like, as you said, I think the big improvement for the Sharks, the difference between this season and last season, is that they have an effective attack. And I think that's mostly down to one man, that's Andre Stesen, who would be I think, above and beyond the Sharks player of the season for me. Like, just his ability to bring, obviously, the other outside backs in and obviously to create for himself has just been really good. And I think he's really given some directness to the team. And it's a big point of difference to what they had last year. And I mean, yeah, there's not many, I can't think of too many 12s that have performed better than him this season, because obviously he's been more or less available for at least the majority of it. So he's been great. Because if you look at the numbers from last season, it's the attack, it's the point scored that is a lot higher than it was last season. The defense is a little bit better, but it's not that much better. But I want to do a quick game with you guys. So obviously we rank teams by points in rugby. So the points you get from a competition. But points difference can tell a good part of the story as to, okay, you have a high points difference, usually that means you're good because it means you're thrashing teams. You have a low points difference, means you're edging teams basically every week. Okay, so let's try to do it in order. Who do you think is the top team for points difference this season in the URC?
Probably Leinster.
Leinster.
Okay, Leinster number 1. Shaun, who's number 2?
Bulls.
Bulls, great, number 2. Kooks, number 3?
Probably Glasgow.
Glasgow. So Leinster 286. So yeah, like absolutely insane. Like they pretty much win games by about 15 points every time. Bulls number 2 at 181. So that's 10 points they win per game. Glasgow 141. Pretty good. About 87 points a game. Number 4, Shaun, who do you think it is?
Munster.
Munster's not number 4. I'll tell you, it is the Stormers on 89 points. Kooks, number 5. So what I'll give you as a clue is that the only teams with a positive points difference are the 8 quarterfinalists. So Stormers we've just ticked off, they're number 4. So it's now 4 left.
Sharks will be up there somewhere.
It is not the Sharks at number 5.
Is it Munster?
No, now it's Edinburgh. They've got 64 points difference. Number 6, Kooks, is it the Sharks now? No, it's not. It is Scarlets.
Scarlets.
So
number
the
7,
Sharks, the Sharks, you basically saying you said the Sharks got the worst points difference out of all the top 8.
Basically, this quarterfinal is between the worst and the second worst points difference out of the quarterfinalists. Sharks plus 34 and Munster plus 15, which is even more insane.
So the Sharks are winning every game by average of 2 points.
Yeah.
Is my math correct?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Which pretty much tells the story of the Sharks.
Basically, it is exactly what Cook said, but a statistical version.
Yeah.
We'll win, but it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be close.
So I guess you can look at it 2 ways as a Sharks fan. Like positively, look, the Sharks can win a close game, and that's obviously very valuable for a knockout, for the knockout phase. Or negatively, this luck must turn some time. And I think that's going to be the interesting thing for the Sharks. I mean, both them and Munster they're those 2 kids that have a lot more potential in class that are just coasting and underperforming. You know, one of them is going to get 100% and mean they get an A and they're top of the class at the end of the year. So we're looking at whether it's the Sharks or Munster that's going to pull off the big mark at the end of the year, the final exam.
We've got to figure out what motivates the Sharks. I think that's the most important thing. When you've got those 2 kids, you've got to figure out what is their motivation. So
yeah, carrot or stick, basically.
Exactly. Like, are the players' motivation money? I don't know if it is, because you would expect them to be on pretty good contracts, especially because they're 99% Springboks. So let's say that like, what is the motivation? Is the motivation and what worries me is that the motivation is like the old Kings players. The Kings players, their motivation that season was to get contracts elsewhere. And they had such a good season. And then, you know what I mean? Like, is that what the Sharks' motivation is? Like, I don't know. I don't know. It can't be money.
The funny thing with the Sharks, I think they, like I said to Charlie, like they remind me aside of the frustrating thing is that the first half of the season is so stop-start because it's rugby championship and it's end of year tour, so the Boks are in and then out and then like they're all over the place and it's like it feels like there's two different squads because sometimes the Boks are available, sometimes they're not, and then sort of once they get to like Feb post Six Nations, and you're like, okay, the Sharks players are back, and then like almost the season starts. Then everyone is back, and then we've got these guys. So I feel like it's for me aside, there's like, okay, let's get to Feb, and then we'll just make a run. Our season starts in Feb. We'll make a run from there. Don't get ourselves out of the competition come September to Jan, where we find ourselves like in 12th place, and now you're scrambling, and likely Sharks held on they're enough quality. Because I think now when all the players are available, and all those Oaks, they're so motivated, they've won trophies before, they're going, well, we're here now. Like we're here, we're qualified, we're in a position. Because my thing is, if the Sharks didn't have that sort of motivation, all these close games they would lose. They'll probably.
So who's going to tell them that Feb was 2 months ago? Like, are
Yeah.
you going to tell them? Because Feb's finished, bud.
No, what I'm saying is shocking, but still, what I'm saying is that they've rolled off a good amount of wins. They find themselves to third. So what I'm saying is they're still winning games.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's like when it gets tight, the class comes to almost like the guys go, okay, all right, well, listen, guys, we've won World Cups before.
Backs
Okay,
against the wall. Yeah.
let's just get this job done. And I think now, as they get closer to the playoffs, it's that okay, another chance to win another trophy. Because you saw the Sharks in the Challenge Cup last year. They literally were horrific for 85% of the season. And then they're like, guys, we need to win this thing so we can go to the Champions Cup. Okay, cool. Then they were fantastic for like the last bit. You're like, so why didn't we not do this thing when we were? So I think that's why now the URC, they're like, okay, we're third now. We are the because I mean, when the Sharks went on the Challenge Cup, they're like, okay, cool. We're like, that's a non-factor. We're gonna do the URC thing. I say that, and then hopefully they don't fall apart in 2 weeks' time. They were like, sorry, Kooks.
But maybe that's their motivation. Maybe I've missed it completely. Their motivation is that pressure and that back against the wall. Because you're 100% right. The Challenge Cup, the motivation was very clearly there. So was the motivation the money of the Champions Cup, or was the motivation like we've got to salvage our season and win something?
Yeah.
So we got 4 games there. I think they had to win 4 in a row because I can't remember. Did they? I can't remember that round of 16 or whatever. But I know there was pressure even before they made the knockouts. So then you're just like, okay, cool. So maybe that is their motivation. Maybe this is when they come to their own. Maybe it's not Feb. Maybe it's always April and May. Like, you know what I mean? So yeah, cool. You sold me, bro. You sold me. I'm in. I'm back in again for the 100th time. I'm in.
It's so funny. I mean, the season's been so long that we forget that the Sharks started the season as Currie Cup champions. And
Yeah.
obviously, basically, the second team won the Currie Cup in the most jammy fashion ever, with like obviously what the Bulls and the Lions conspired to lose those Currie Cups. And then we're all confident that, okay, the Sharks have now the backup to, the Stars. Then it went through a bit of a low patch in October, November when they were on tour, and I'm trying to count here. I think they lost 2 of the 5 matches they lost in that first block of 4 games on tour. So that's 40% of your losses already. Basically, just you've done them in October. That's pretty much because it's obviously there's not as much quality and experience in that team because of the rugby championship and stuff like that. So I mean, look, well done to the Sharks. I think it's such a weird thing to say, but at the same time, something has gone really right and something has not gone right at the same
It's gone
time.
right, but it's not. It's when you put the key in the lock and you still manage to unlock the lock, but it's not the right key. Like
Yeah.
that's what's happened. Like it's not like it hasn't just clicked and opened. Like it's still gonna happen. I think that's what everyone's waiting for. Everyone's waiting for the Sharks to work. If the Sharks work, like Leinster will be second on the log. That's how good the Sharks team can be.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
I don't think anyone doubts that.
Look, I do. I mean, like, like, okay, like, I agree with you. I agree with you in principle in terms of like if maybe if everyone is fit, but I think the Sharks will never. Unfortunately, the scenario is like I say all the time, like because everyone goes like, on paper, yes, our starting side, 15 the Sharks is incredible. The 23, but then unfortunately, like if you want to work and be like where Leinster is, we still have to build more depth. And someone's saying, yeah, but you have all these players. All the exercises need more if you want to compete in the URC and in Europe. Unfortunately, that's the reality. So I think that's what the Sharks need to be, where it's like, can we be a good, great star that comes through in the URC and not turn to the college rovers when all the Boks disappear and we can't buy a win. So that's the gap the Sharks need to fill before we start talking about lenses. Before we can start dropping the likes of Jody Barrett, we're not there yet, Sharky. We got to play on these in every game. All the big guys. We can't drop them for zebra.
Okay,
Yeah.
Leo.
Sean, just quickly, I mean, just on the other side, Scarlets, they got the loss, but because they won against Leinster actually as well early in the season, and they beat the Lions last week, they qualified for the last 16. I mean, the last 8. I mean, and they're going to face Leinster. I mean, like we mentioned earlier, at least Kooks and I, and probably most people didn't give them much of a hope. And now this season, if they come out of it, and you're just so excited about all these backline talents that Scarlets and now Wales have. I mean, Joe Roberts, Tom Rogers, Blair Murray. I think even Blair Murray is getting like low key some line shots. Like it's just such an exciting attacking brand of rugby. You throw in your Tongans there with Lausi and Fafita as well. Like there's so much, dynamism. I think Tane Plumtree's had a really underrated season as well. So, Scarlets has just done so well, I think, to put themselves in this position and to get into the last 8.
They've had a lot of things really click into place at the right time. I think the glue is Fafita and Lassie. I really do. They operate really tight and they operate really loose. It's almost like whatever's happening is happening. All the highlights you'll see is of them out wide, basketball passes inside, like some crazy offload, but they get through a hell of a lot of graft. And that's sort of done in conjunction with Plumtree, who you're 100% right. Like he has been playing well. And then they've got these backs. The one thing that we can say about this Six Nations is what it's done for the Welsh youngsters. Like, given them, there's a lot of them that played for Wales this season, and you're kind of like, well, hang on a second, like who are they, firstly, or isn't there someone better? Like we've got some youngster, but the confidence it's given them is really helping them cook. And Scarlet's probably the most improved all round when it comes to that. If you look at like everything, when you read off their names before the season started versus the names after, like currently, you would recognize like 10 extra names, and that's just all for what season they've had and how good they've been. And it's been going really well in that it's dovetailed well. That's the one thing. Like it's not like the backs are playing well and the forwards are shit. It's kind of like everyone's really working it well together. There's like these two guys, this lock and this loose forward, and then these 3 backs. There's always a combination of that happening and happening well. And it's flipping great. I'm so stoked that they made the knockouts.
Yeah. And shout out to Sam Costello. Like
So good.
I had a lot of doubts. I think this time last year he was looking really shaky for Wales. And yeah, maybe, he's not going to be like, Stephen Jones or Dan Bigger level fly half, but he's more than capable at this level. And I think he's really growing in confidence. I think he's going to put things together. So, Wales, it sounds like now there's new news about them cutting another union, another region. So, this story will never end for them. But you could do worse, at least from a national team perspective, in building on the Scarlets, I think. Like, sometimes when you're a team like Wales, all you need to do is find who's the successful franchise or region and just say, okay, we're going to do everything according to how you are playing.
They can do that with Cardiff and Scarlets, which is not something
and they play similarly, sort of.
Yeah, it's not something that they've really been able to do, rest on 2 sides. So many countries do have, like they'll have a side that is the foundation player provider, and then they'll have another side that is very close second, or you know what I mean? And Wales haven't really had that for a while now, and now they do. So let's see.
Yeah. So looking forward to that. Let's go and talk quickly about the Lions. They beat Ospreys 29-28, which is what they should have done last year so that they could have qualified for the quarterfinals. So yeah, great timing for the Lions to do that at the wrong time. I think maybe we'll do, yeah, maybe when we like a bit later in the season, we can do like a nice sort of review of like all four of the SA URC teams. Sean and Cooks, I'll ask you for your quick eulogy or like or sort of quick two-line summary, if I can call it that, on the Lions season. Like Cooks, I think for me, it's yeah, I wish I had the vibes of the first half of the season, because if I was the first half, I was like, okay, there's something happening, it's going forward. Now I'm just like, we can't be going through the same story anymore. And look, I don't mind that. I mean, it's hard to qualify for the URC. Like, there's a lot of great sides. I mean, there's about 12 that could have qualified, I think, 2 weeks ago. But it's really disappointing that the Lions just really fell flat, I think, at the end of the season. That's the most disappointing thing for me.
Yeah, I think for me, it's another chance gone begging. And probably the best chance when they started a house on fire and we thought, oh, okay, this could be the season, things are a bit different. And then obviously they hit the speed wobbles. And I think the frustrating thing for them is that, it was in their hands in terms of like when you got to the SA derbies, they had about 2 games in hand that you thought, okay, you win maybe win one of those and you get yourself in contention, especially like at the time when they had the SA derbies, like for example, when they played the Stormers, Stormers weren't playing as well as they're playing now, and they had injuries, and like they weren't the forms, they weren't in form, the lines of the form side, and then you go down in one of those games, and then you think to yourself like, okay, cool, the stage where the Lions are probably form wise are probably the second best side behind the Bulls, and then in the middle of the season, and then from there the second half of the season didn't end the way they wanted. I mean, yes, they finished 2 out of 3 at home. But the last week kind of sums it up. And the question now goes, it's a fourth season of URC, another playoff missed. Yes, we understand the problems and the issues they face with players going down, but now it gets to the point, okay, what happens now? Because the sort of the way they ended last season, um, just missing out. But like the story, they had to come back and get themselves back in a position to almost qualify. You kind of left URC going, man, I can't wait for next season because now things seem
Yeah.
to get in place. Whereas now it's like, oh, so now what? Like, are we not where we wanted to be? Yes, there's still got the exciting youngsters. Yes, those are the guys who had just as a Currie Cup final. So now it's gonna be interesting to see where they go from here. But I just think that the Lions now, the tough thing is there's probably a lot more questions than answers leading up to in the off season, leading up to next season.
Sean, yeah, if I would ask you sort of as broadly as possible, the reason the Lions aren't in the top eight or aren't maybe performing or at least winning half of their games, like, you need to in order to qualify for these things. What is that sort of main reason?
Think if you can get rid of those politics and play the best guys, because there was a period when they didn't play someone like Nahamba, and we were all asking those questions when he was clearly doing good things. Maybe it was the right decision for them internally, but externally it didn't look that way. The other thing is I'd like to see more of Dobella. I Every
Yeah.
time I watch him, he seems to be doing he looks a lot more confident and he looks like he belongs there. Is
Yeah.
probably not that no one else does. I just think we need to see more of Dobella. I think he looks like this guy's got the goods and pull it together. The other thing, like, what if the Lions just decided to be the bad guys? Like, what if they stopped with this whole like, oh, we are the Lions. We're just gonna go through and we're just gonna give it a go. And like, what happens if they just say, screw this? Like, let's just be the bad guys. Like, make it horrible for everyone to go there. Like, make it a dogfight because they've got players that can win tight games. Like, maybe just make it a dogfight, make it niggly and shitty and whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like, everyone talks about like how bad things are around Ellis Park. Well, play like that. Play like that, like in that nasty, like get in your face, rub the like a little bit of a face in the dirt afterwards. Be the bad guys. Nobody likes you except the Lions fans. Sweet, because I'll tell you now, everyone in South Africa, barring the Bulls, their second team is the Lions. They're like, we really want them to do well because we're kind of trying to help them along. Like, be the ugly stepchild, go hard, get in people's faces, get a couple of breakers there, just do your stuff. You've got the talent to maybe that's what they need to do. Maybe they need to change the way that they approach things. I don't know. I mean, I could be completely wrong, but I wouldn't mind seeing it for 1 or 2 weeks.
I mean, something has to give as well in terms of like just like recruitment and player retention, stuff like that. Like, yeah, I don't know, like either go like almost like Galactico level. To be fair to them, they have kept, I think, pretty much all of the other sort of main players, like Ntlabakanye signed, extended, Van Wyk, Juan Horn. So it's going to be probably the most stability the Lions have had in a while. But they've lost Noamba obviously earlier, and I mean, they've lost Edel van der Merwe as well. So, and I think Maurice Lowe's going as well. So, you know, it just becomes, yeah, every time you think like you're making a few steps forward, you make as many steps back for the Lions, and they're kind of like running in quicksand at the moment. And yeah, I mean, I don't even know if it's look, do I rate Ivan van Rooyen as a coach as much? Probably not. But I don't even think it's on him. Like it's just you can't, I mean, a cook can only do as much as the ingredients that he has. And constantly we go to this part of the season where you're looking through the Lions team sheet, you're like, oh, I've not seen this person since Varsity Cup, or I genuinely don't know who this player is. And I mean, we're pretty informed. So that's the problem now for the Lions is that they don't, I mean, Cooks was mentioning it with Leinster and the Sharks. I mean, the Lions don't even have the Sharks level depth. Maybe they don't even have the depth of like pretty much three-quarters of the teams here because after that first 23, it gets really like, oh, is this a player that should be playing the URC right now, or maybe needs a few more years somewhere else, or whatever the case is. So that's where the problem is for the Lions. They really need to fix things from like a franchise union level as well.
And if your players are in everyone's faces and just generally making the game uncomfortable, maybe they'll be less appealing and the Lions can hold on to more of their players.
Ron Fenton needs to go through a run of like 4 red cards every time he plays. Like, just make sure you're as unrecruitable as possible. Like, I think I kind of like this plan, Sean. We need a bad boys like run for the Lions because that's maybe the only way you can keep them in Joburg. Like they say, if you're in a nice neighborhood, if you want to keep the prices down, break a few windows. Like that's kind of how the Lions should be playing right now.
But you know, like we've all played those games. We've played those games against a team that we know like we are better than, but we know it's going to be a shit game. We know it's going to be in your face. It's going to be off the ball stuff. So you spend all your time worried about that, knowing that you're better. You get sucked into it, or you're worried about it, or you're always looking out for it. Now, I know in the program you really can't go that dark, but there are definitely ways of doing it. Like we've seen it in the pro game where you go to this team and you're like, oh, I just don't want to be there. Like I just don't want to be here. And that's what you want. You want guys that don't want to be there. And then once you as a team mentally can see that light switch off in their eyes, then you start playing your game and it's too late for them to come back. You grab 2-3 wins like that and the perception changes, man.
Yeah. So last 2 games of the weekend for the URC, Connacht beating Zebre 22 points to 12. Don't think we had on our bingo cards that Connacht would only finish 10 points ahead of Zebre. So that is for Ireland a bit of a worry, actually. So they obviously have Leinster at top, but then Munster just made it into the quarterfinals, and Ulster and Connacht are, or Connacht and Ulster, I should say, are 13th and 14th respectively. So that's just not a good season, I think, for Irish rugby. Like, I mean, usually they have probably 3 teams in the last 8 and then 1 team, usually Connacht floating out. So yeah, that's a small little orange light, I think, for the IFU to look out for. I mean, yeah, there's also news about the sevens being dropped from their
What the
program.
hell?
And the sevens players are pissed about that. Yeah, I don't know if you want to say something about that, Sean, but yeah, the vibes are not vibing right now for Ireland rugby.
No, I was shocked, especially so. I Ireland brought out their sevens program when the sevens was included in the Olympics. So they were like, "Cool, we're going to do this on our own. We're not going to like we want to medal there and all that sort of stuff." I What I will say is the way that the IRFU have gone about this, I think, is diabolical. I think it is very, very unprofessional. But I do think that it is a direct retaliation and a direct result of what World Rugby have done with the Sevens program. Because World Rugby have made the Sevens program terrible. Like the last couple of seasons that we've been in this format have been terrible, and they're changing the format next season. So unfortunately, World Rugby have just really taken a good thing and destroyed it. I have no doubt in my mind that this is not the last team that we will, the last country that we will see that will do something like this. If and I think it's directly related to what World Rugby have done. Having said that, I'm very disappointed at how it went down. I just really, the optics of it just don't look good. And I think that sides that use the Sevens program as a platform to deliver, like the All Black Sevens, if you look at the amount of All Blacks that played All Black Sevens sometimes in their career, it is astronomical. It's huge. They use that as a springboard. The Aussie Sevens a little bit too, if I'm not mistaken, but their women's program and their women's rugby is exceptionally strong. And we have started doing it, but we've wobbled a little bit as well. So I don't think it's the last country we'll see that will drop the sevens or will dramatically reduce funding or focus. And I do think it is directly related to how World Rugby have taken this and just absolutely foobarred it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think you're right, Sean. I don't know if the sevens format as it is will stay, at least for men's rugby right now. Like, I mean, I don't know how expensive running the sevens program is for these teams. Especially for Ireland. I mean, they're probably the last
The
ones that can
island
beat poverty.
the Island Sevens were making money. They were providing a lot of revenue. So it
Yeah,
wasn't even like that was the one thing that was contradictory to the report
yeah.
because a couple of their players came out and were like, hang on a second, we actually making money. And they took massive dig at signing Geordie Barrett and signing Rico Ioane. They took big
Yeah.
digs.
And they took digs at like the Blazers flying out to like all these Six Nations games and tour games, and they don't sort of fly just for the day of the game. They spend the week there because as an administrator, you need to acclimatize to know you're playing in Rome, Joburg, or Cape Town. You need to know like the environment there. So yeah, Sean, I think you're right, unfortunately, that this won't be the last. I mean, there's been rumors even in South Africa that maybe the program for the Blitzbok will be changed or at least funds cut to it. And that's obviously, like you said, going to be a big sort of like hit to, yeah, especially I think in the South African context, there's a certain player that just doesn't get play in the big union teams until he proves himself in sevens, usually the smaller players. So that's that. I don't know. A lot of clever heads need to come around to try and fix that.
Oh, just need
Um,
to bin World Rugby. Go solo. I love V Rugby it.
yeah, I mean, I actually don't really mind that as a potential solution for sevens rugby. I think if anything, that should go the franchise route. Just quickly on the Leinster Glasgow game, I mean, I guess the big news is Sharon Tublota came back, and I mean, as Sean said earlier, it's clear it was just there to play a half. Leinster won a pretty ugly game from all accounts. It's 13 points to 5. So yeah, that puts Glasgow at fourth. Leinster finished the season off on top. Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with him in the next few weeks. But yeah, that was a pretty flat way of ending the URC. So finally, the quarterfinals to look forward to next week Saturdays. Leicester are hosting Scarlets in Dublin. The second versus seventh is the Bulls hosting Edinburgh. Third versus sixth is the Sharks hosting Munster, and then finally the Stormers are traveling to Scotland to face Glasgow. So we'll see. I mean, I think uh, there's at least a chance of at least one away win. I think for Sharks fans, they're praying it's the Stormers that get the away win and not Munster. So it's there's two. I think there's two games that are close to 50-50s, and then I think with the Bulls and the Leinster games, I mean, those are clear favorites.
But whoa, whoa, whoa. The Bulls are facing Scottish opposition. We can't forget that that is a little bit of a problem.
No, it was Glasgow. It wasn't Scottish opposition. If they lose, they lose to Edinburgh. I mean, yeah, people have to pack up. Honestly, like
I won't, Cooks, I won't come visit. I won't go watch the game, and I'm only doing it for Thala. I
Yeah,
just want you to know
and
that.
I'll do the same. Don't worry.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. Let's do some quick roundups of everything else happening around rugby. Sean, You are sort of our Premiership correspondent. Yeah, obviously some big matches and some movement in the Premiership log. I mean, now Sale and Bristol Bears are third and fourth. Gloucester and Saracens are kind of losing track. I mean, Saracens lost to Northampton. Glasgow at least got a win against Newcastle. Sale got a big win against Bristol. Yeah, and Bath absolutely thrashed Leicester Tigers as well. That could be a potential final. Yeah, what's going on there?
Yeah, it was just the big result is Sale's big win over Bristol. I think, especially considering what Bristol did last week against Bath, was more a statement for Sale. Sale really needed it as well. Interesting, Rob Dupree has started every single Premiership game since the 1st of January 2022 for Sale Sharks. He's on 70, 71 or 72. He has started in a row.
Wow.
Ridiculous. Yeah, anyway. I just want to have a little say about the Saints Saracens game. I know Saracens been getting a lot of heat because they're upset with what happened, and the usual people are like, "Yeah, but you guys are cheaters, so you can't really complain." Saracens to lose that game, there was definitely one. There was maybe two forward passes in that motion, and there was one that was clear. It wasn't even like flat. So I missed the end of that game, so I wasn't able to pick up how the conversation went and everything. But it was a cracking game. And basically, the thing that's so upsetting, I think, for Saracens is what that loss does is that essentially ends their season because they need way too much to go their way. Like Mark McCall was really, the way he came out afterwards, he was like, basically that result means the season is not in our hands anymore. And I think that was the big thing. For every other side, I think not having Saracens in the knockouts is huge. Saracens, Bulls, Leinster, Crusaders, they're all kind of sides that you don't ever want to play in a knockout game because they just have what it takes. Like they just tap into that old IQ that they had and their old mental vibe and they just go and pull it out. So, yeah. And then Bath are Bath are on another level. I'm telling you now that next year, I'm going to call it for next year, we will see Ollie Lawrence and Max Ajomo in the midfield for England. I'm going to go that far. We obviously see what Lawrence has got. We've seen it, and he's recovering from an Achilles injury. But Max Ajomo, I've been watching him for a while. I really like him. I like what the two of them do together. They could almost interchange in a game in terms of playing 12 and 13. On attack, they've got so much. And then, they played Donahue at 15. I think it was his first start at 15. He's been playing 10 for them. They're really looking good. Ben Spencer supposedly signed a new contract. But there's now talk that a team in France has given him an option, a contract request or whatever. They've shown interest, I think is the correct term I'm supposed to be looking for. So I think Spencer's vital for Bath. But they're looking good. It's their season to lose, and that would be probably the worst thing that they want to hear, especially after having lost last season. But we're in for a cracking round. There's one more round left before they do the semi-finals, and it's all to play for. It's going to be an exciting final round.
Yeah, lots to look forward to, and we'll see how that shakes out. Yeah, basically, and except for Bath and probably Leicester, I think they kind of actually no, I think Sale are the ones that are kind of through. I think everything else is basically all up.
So Bath on 71 points, so they're guaranteed first spot. Leicester Tigers on 56 points. So they could almost technically miss out on a points difference. Sale in third spot on 54, Bristol fourth on 53. Then Gloucester and Saracens are just outside the semi-finals on 51 each. So it's there's a lot going on. It's a shit show. Bath are the only safe side, but it's crazy.
Yeah. Very quickly, just not going to go too long on this, but in France, La Rochelle have just risen from the dead, basically. They've gone from looking
after
like
losing $1 million.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the secret is Ronan Garth should not be in the stadium. So
Sitting on, do you see the photo of him sitting on the bus sulking?
that was fantastic. That was chef's kiss. And they've literally gone from they might be in a relegation fight to now they're fifth. And right now the season is they'd be in a barrage match. So yeah, that's obviously big because you know how fantastic La Rochelle can be in knockout situations. Racing also put themselves up there with a nice win against Toulouse. So yeah, the French top 14 is also like getting quite tight there at the end. Relegation is also a situation there, but I mean, yeah, big. I think big points for Stade and Perpignan just putting some distance on them ahead of Van. So
But I just want to say, Stud, Zach Henry put in a kick after the hooter to win the game that literally have pulled them out of the relegation battle. It is massive.
yeah,
Vaughn are, yeah, I think everyone wants them to survive because they have been, I think they 2 games ago already got more points than the previous side that got relegated, bottom of the log. So like they everyone's second side unless they're playing your own, basically. But yeah, it's I think I don't even know how many games are left. I think there's 3, but I'm not
two,
sure. Two
yeah.
rounds left. Yeah,
So
it's crazy. Stud are in trouble still. They are scraping. But I just want to say the game that they do win, they had Jeremy Ward and Joe Marchant in the midfield. I'm just saying. It's not a coincidence.
the Schalke midfield. So yeah, basically Toulouse are through to the semi-finals. They've got automatic qualification. They're all good. And from second till 10th, everyone is still fighting for actually second to 11th. Everyone's still fighting for a place in the barrage. And then 12th, 13th, 14th are all in the relegation battle. So yeah, there's a lot you can still watch in the top 14.
Oh,
Um
and didn't Racing beat Toulouse this weekend?
yeah,
Massive.
yeah.
Massive.
Big win there for Racing. Cooks, yeah, I mean, just on a Super Rugby front, I mean, my ACT Brumbies are ready to disappoint me again in the semi-finals, but yeah, they're flying high. You know, this is the year for Aussie Rugby. I'm gonna keep saying that until it happens. So yeah, I think they're top of the log right now after they win against the Reds. And Oni Sevilla was announced as player of Super Rugby Pacific, which still has a round to go according to,
Two.
well, actually 2 rounds to go.
2 rounds to
So
go.
I don't know what's happening there in New Zealand.
One thing I do love is, I mean, it's twofold. One is probably they're like, you know what? I don't think anyone's going to get to the levels that he's playing at. Let's just give him now. Let's not waste our time by making fans vote or go through it now. So tough if someone was on the brink is like, you know what? I'm just going to go to a nice little deep from the like if like Quinter at the Chiefs has been fantastic. It's like maybe I'm just gonna have a save myself for like a deep run in the playoffs and maybe like no, it's going straight to Audi. But yeah, Super Rugby's heating up. I mean, Brumbies got a very good win over the Reds. And then, you know what? I mean, I think the big story is Moana Pacifica. I mean, getting one over the Blues this weekend, sort of the was turned to the Auckland derby now, and you know, I mean, the videos and stuff coming out of Moana Pacifica is always awesome. And whenever they win a game, you got to check out their team songs. Probably one of the best team songs going at the moment. It's incredible. One thing about the Audi severe thing, I think what's very cool though, there was a bit of like a compilation video put together where Audi speaks about when he moved to Moana Pacifica last year, and people said, "Oh, his rugby's going to go down. He's not going to be like by the time he gets to the All Blacks, like he's not going to be a firing at all levels." I think that sort of that it said you use it as motivation because I can't remember when Lars Audi was playing at this sort of level. He's been incredible, and he was an absolute freak on Saturday. I mean, that performance he put in there was one of the best individual performances you'll see. 21 carries, had about 117 meters gained, 8 tackles, 2 turnovers, a try assist, and an exit. And he exited a torpedo, and he grabbed
Yes.
it. Like that's all he did. He did that in about 80 minutes, and then obviously, as he gets the winning turnover as well to sort of seal the deal, he was everywhere. Like that was a performance of Audi Sevilla that was the vintage Audi that we've seen, and I think I put a tweet out saying that probably this year I don't think there's anyone more informed than Ardie Sevilla, Tommy Freeman, and Louis Bilbari. I think those three are playing rugby at an incredible level from what I've seen. But Moana Pacific got the good win. Big shout out to Super Rugby was Quinta Pio. I mentioned he's been absolutely fantastic for the Chiefs. That 12 jersey for the All Blacks is heating up now because you have the likes of Jordie Barrett. I mean, if he's allowed to start games for the All Blacks, I don't know if the All Blacks have got the same policy as Leinster that Jordie can play only several minutes. So we'll see, we'll get the bridge when we get there. So you got the Jordie Barrett, Quinta Pio is definitely put himself in the mix. As obviously Angelina Brown. The Blues are struggling. I mean, they are not in a good place at the moment. Crusaders are got a nice bounce back win over the Waratahs, obviously without Joseph Sahili, so it doesn't really count. So yeah, I think Super Rugby is a good
He's
play.
got a chipped jaw, eh?
Yeah, two
He's
rounds,
in doubt for the Lions.
which is massive. I mean, to be fair, like I must say, at least at fullback, he's still got Tom Wright in it, but the center is going to be the big one. But yeah, Super Rugby is good. It's been a really, 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 really nice Super Rugby campaign. If Lee McDonald's not saying anything stupid or anything wild, hey, oh, no, so not Lee McDonald, Steve McDonald's not saying anything wild, just gave straight to Lee McDonald for no reason. I mean, Steve McDonald, if he's not saying anything wild, it's been great. It's what's been needed. But yeah, it was a hell of a season, and guys, man, Super Rugby. I'm just glad
And
I'm really
talking
glad.
about talking about players and people saying total freaking off-field shit. Crusaders are doing well. Their coach now? He's the same dude that went off at the media last year.
Yeah, it's the same to Rob Penny. Yeah, shame is.
Danny, that's right.
Yeah, it's the same guy. Shocker. They're still alive there down there at Crusaders. To be fair, the Crusaders have been fantastic until they play against the Chiefs. That's the problem. That's a good. They've been absolutely rinsed twice. The Chiefs are incredible. Like
what's the
everyone else
playoff format? Everyone goes into knockouts, eh?
Yeah,
Top six.
Top six.
One plays six, two play. I don't know.
Okay.
Hey, leave it. We'll let it be. They try. But at least the other sides have been good value. So I think that's which has made a big difference.
That's a big difference.
Yeah, the
I think
others have been really good. Moana Pacific obviously they've also been really cool. They've been good. So I think that's been great to watch.
Yeah. I think there's some stat like I think the Aussies have I think they've lost only like 2 or 3 matches in Australia. I might be very wrong, but like against the New Zealand team. So they've done their part. And that's all you need to ask for competition. Like
Yeah.
that's all I think that's all we really want from Aussie teams, at least that they're competitive. That's not just, New Zealand teams are just getting like 10 points every time they play their 2 games in Australia. So that, yeah, and now hopefully with the Brumbies there is
Like going to the Cheetahs and Lions on tour.
pretty much. Yeah, so hopefully now the Brumbies can actually be a competitor as well, and then we have some form of competition. But it's nice how it's sort of like Brumbies, Chiefs, and Crusaders are all fighting for those 2 automatic spots for a semi-final. And then between the Reds, the Canes, Moana Pacifica, the Blues, even the Waratahs and Force might have a small chance. Or more the Waratahs. The Force only have 1 game left, but the Waratahs have 2 games left. Like they have then an outside chance to hopefully make the last 6. So yeah, we'll see how that turns out the next few weeks. Quicks, yeah, we have some good news for you. We have the Six Nations fixtures that have just come out. I know you're very excited for Six Nations 2026, and you're very excited to see and to mark down in your calendar which Saturdays and Sundays and maybe 1 or 2 Fridays you need to reserve for yourself. So glad to tell you that the first match of France versus Ireland, number 2 and number 3 in the world, or whatever the case is.
The biggest game of the tournament.
Pretty much. It's decided every Grand Slam for the last few years. It's happening in round 1 on the 5th of February on a Thursday because of the Winter Olympics.
Like I just get so frustrated because someone commented, or one of our fans commented that like they love midweek rugby and it's so great, like the Lions series coming up. Yo, they play against like the Western Force. It's great rugby. I don't want to watch the top 3 sides play on a Thursday. Not. Like on a Thursday night. I don't know what
Oh.
I love Monday rugby. I love when the World Cup game, All Blacks Italy, Uruguay versus Romania, in the World Cup Lions tour, when the Lions are playing, you don't know when they're gonna got some rugby Lions playing on the Sharks or something. I'm all in for midweek games. Not when it's the second and third best side in the world playing against each other. Because why are we doing this? Why does the Six Nations every year just decide to mess up this Ireland versus France game? Because this year they decided to play basically at 11 on a Saturday morning, just make the game like it's 5 o'clock when everyone can watch. Not like like this game's at 1 o'clock and then like Wales and Italy or something stupid is at 3:30. Like guys, can you put it at reasonable times? Or they're playing on Friday at 10 o'clock. Like, well, how do you cock up the biggest game of the Six Nations? Like, I don't understand. Now on a Thursday, because of Winter Olympics, I understand it's big in France, but I don't care about skiing. I don't care about luge. I don't care about alpine, whatever stuff they do in the Winter Olympics. Why can't they play on Sunday? Why can't they play on Saturday? Why can the other games? Oh, maybe France, maybe rearrange the order. Like maybe look in the future. Okay, maybe Ireland, you might have to play two games at home because this year France has got the Winter Olympics at this time. Or guess what, Thala? Don't have this fixture on the same weekend of the opening game. Move it somewhere else. Like you have 6 weekends to play with. I can't stand this. Who wants to watch Ireland versus France on a Thursday? Because you know what? You might miss it because you're watching a soapy or watching a normal TV. Like, oh crap, there's a rugby on. Like I'm gonna stumble onto. I hate this so much. Like, why Thursday?
And the worst part is there's no rugby the next day.
No, it's just like no rugby. It's like so now what happens the next day? There's like it was like there's no rugby on Sunday as well. I'm like, I love a Sunday, a little Sunday rugby. France loves a game on a Sunday as well. Now they're like, no, we're gonna play on Thursday. Like Thursday, like why is this game treated like as if it's some Netflix documentary that's being released on some random day? Like it's like Ireland versus France. They literally mess this game up every year. Guys, this game this year kicked off at 1 o'clock. It was like Hoppers one kickoff. I'm like, guys, people are doing stuff at Hoppers one, like make it at 5.
Can
Oh,
I can I make this worse for you, Cooks? It's not even France that's hosting the Winter Olympics, it's Italy.
so
What?
so
No,
yeah.
I thought it was France.
It was in France, maybe. You're like, okay, maybe it's in France, but not in Italy. Like, so that's like basically the box being like, hey guys, sorry, we'd like to have the All Blacks play at 5 o'clock, but listen, Australia's hosting the Soccer World Cup. So, and our guys love the Soccer World Cup. So we're just gonna watch it at a random time. The thing is, the Six Nations as a whole, I hope next year is the worst Six Nations campaign of all time. I want one where we complain like, oh, the rugby is at a pause because we don't deserve this as fans. Because it's my luck, I'll try and protest and not watch. It ends like 35-30. And then now I've missed out. So now I'm gonna watch Louis Bilbari and Damien Penaud. Also it might be Dupont's first game back after a year because he comes back now. I watch Dupont on a Thursday like I'm watching Game of Thrones rewatch. Like I got nothing to do. I got things to do on Thursday. I got football to watch, man. What if there's Europa League on Thursday? Now I can't watch soccer because I gotta watch. Ah, come on, man, guys. Oh, stupid people that
I
make the
yeah.
decision. The
Unfortunately, I guess there's some law in
the rugby
France that you
championship we
can't.
just got. Australia must not get any funny ideas with the Lions tour as well. They better not get any funny ideas with the Lions tour. Tell her, I need to go look at the schedule. If there's a Lions game at like 4 in the morning, they must
No,
lose 3-0. I,
no. So every Lions test is kicking off at 9. It's kicking off at normal Australian time for
okay,
us.
man. That's
11, 11. Yeah.
that's
And I think
I,
every
when I read that schedule and I read because there was a whole big write up. They're like, "Yeah, we just want to tell you that every game will be kicking off at." So all the tests, I think all games of the tour in Australia are kicking off 9 GMT. Um, but I know it's all the tests. I think it's all the games. But when I read that, I was thinking of you, Cooks. I just want you to know. I just want you to know.
I don't
You
mind.
were you were ahead of negotiations,
I
weren't you?
don't
You
mind.
just
I
didn't
don't
tell
mind.
us.
I don't mind if they play the Western Force at 2:30 in the morning. That's fine with me. As long as when you get to the chess matches, they'll be playing at reasonable times. Because this thing of bring back is afternoon tests, they must do that in their own time. Not an hour to watch rugby. Again, I understand. Once again, I know there's some guys who live in Australia say that when they have to watch our games, they gotta wake up at 2 in the morning. But again, you chose to leave the country. Hey, so that's your problem. Um, that's your problem. So yeah. Anyway. I just,
And I
guys,
have good news for you, Cooks. All of the Rugby Championship games on Saturdays. Australia is doing a few funny afternoon games, but it's mostly on Saturdays at least.
we play them here at 5. And after that, there's no need for me to be watching Australia anyway. They can play Argentina at 1:30 in the morning. They can do whatever they want then. That's their own time. As long as when I want to watch a Bledisloe game and when I want to watch the Springbok, that's all I want. On all Bledisloe get cup games to be at 12 o'clock. That's why you become head of. If I become head of World Rugby, I want to be in charge of. I don't care about the player well being. I don't care about head injuries. All I care about if I become president of World Rugby is just playing rugby at the right times and the right days. That's what my mandate's going to be. Get back to playing rugby at good days. Someone else can handle the head knocks, suspensions. I just want to play rugby on the right times and on the right days. No more Thursday night rugby. My thing is, you play Thursday night test, you should not have test status for a year. Should be revoked. Like it should be no, you should not be able to host test matches. Ireland from France from now on must play all their games in Georgia. Like stop the top 14 for a year. Just go reflect on your decisions you made.
Reflect.
Yeah. Just some other quick roundup of news. Cooks, we had a Springbok alignment camp squad announced. Obviously, we all overreact to these squads because, a Zoom call meeting squad announcement in South Africa is big news, clearly. But 8 uncapped players have been called to this, including Jan Augustus, Vincent Chutuka, Renzo du Plessis, Neethling Forshire, Tabakanye, Manus van der Merwe, the Scarlet's hooker, and he's been playing really well. So yeah, please keep an eye on him if you haven't been watching him. Cobus Visa for the Bulls, and a very, very surprising name. I don't think that was at least on my radars. Dogozo Makaza, the Varsity Cup superstar for UCT Ikes. Cooks, I know. I mean, you were following the Varsity Cup, so can you give a small little breakdown on what kind of player Makaza is?
No, Maka's is fantastic. Brilliant finisher, strong on his body, but I think also fantastic boot, kicks for poles, kicks for touch, incredible and very, very accurate in terms of kicking for poles. And I'm here for Russ's vision because I see what Russ is doing. He's doing exactly what I wanted him to do. He's getting like someone like Makaza. He can kick for poles, put money at 10, and then from there, when they play against Georgia, do you know what I mean? They don't worry.
Because there's a wing, hey?
Yeah,
Okay.
don't let money kick for balls. Let him do exactly what the Roman Intermark was doing. Rassi listens to Rugby Biz podcast, and since then I begged for this, and now it's happened. But Makazi is a very good player. I mean, it's funny enough people are talking about. I mean, like last year with Sampi Swiggers, I think from Booker, who had gone from Varsity Cup went into a Boca Lyman camp. But I must say, Thala, like it's so hard to tell, but like for me, like there's certain things that players like Renzo du Plessis sort of making it like Rusty. It does like that sort of the Kwaka Smith sort of guys are getting that sort of mold. That's something to keep a lookout for. I'm desperate, like just so desperate for us like in the first squad. Like I understand so URC, like just so we can know what he's thinking because the squad for Italy is so and Georgia so interesting because is he gonna go? Like, are we going gung ho, full strength, or are we going to see a bigger squad that's mixed? I think that's the big question because I think with us at the box, I definitely feel like it's a season that's sort of cut in two. You got the first half where it feels like there's room for development, probably even going into the games against Australia, and then we got the All Blacks in the year tour where it's a juggernaut. It's probably four of the biggest tests we have all year. In All Blacks away twice, France and Ireland. So it's going to be interesting to see how he goes. I think obviously like it's always funny trying to gauge of Russ's thoughts in a 53-man squad or a Zoom squad, but very happy for Troki as well. I mean, his form is justified him getting at least a link to the lineman camps because all the players away from home are on Zoom.
Yeah, the world's most talked about Zoom meeting,
Yeah.
basically, this Springbok alignment camp.
Yeah.
Sean, Jean Dupria just gets another stamp of attending another Springbok camp. I think if he gets one more, he gets a free coffee at Starbucks.
Yeah. Who would have thought, eh? Um, but yeah, it's so interesting. It creates it's the most like if there's a player that you like and he's in the squad, and then everyone's like, yeah, he's there because of form. And then like someone else comes in randomly that you don't like, and you're like, he doesn't belong there, but they're just making up the numbers. Like you could hold any argument anywhere. And then a guy doesn't make it, like Evan Roos, who I know that I've been quite outspoken about, but I think he's deserved a look in, but he didn't get a look in. Now everyone's like, oh, he's been dropped. He hasn't been dropped. Don't come with this guy. This was just, as you say, a Zoom meeting. We're going to talk some stuff. Like, we want you to be able to do this, this, and this. What I will say, and Kooks, you've just whet my appetite. You're talking about all these squads. We're in May. We are not far away from a Springbok squad announcement. And you know we're going to get a few of them. Like, it's not one per competition. Like, we get a couple. Like the Rugby Championship is going to give us 2 squad announcements minimum. And then end of year tour. Oh, we've got from June, July, August, September, October, November. We've got squad announcements. Springboks.
This is why I wish I was in
What's the
England.
time?
This is why I wish I was an England fan sometimes, because at least you know you're going to get 24 squad announcements and updates all year. So at least you want to get
52 a year.
oh, man, at least you're getting something. I'm surprised wait till they start announcing their captains for their tour coming up now, and they're 64 vice captains.
They're announcing tomorrow. They're announcing tomorrow their squad to tour wherever they're going
The first draft.
while the first team are playing for the Lions.
Yeah.
Imagine
Sean,
motivating yourself for that.
yeah, Sean, I'm coming back to you.
Do it.
Let's talk about the Japanese Rugby League semi-finals. Just for South African interests, we have Malcolm Marx making it to the final.
No,
And
they were quarterfinals.
oh, sorry, quarterfinals.
Yeah, they've got first 2 teams go through to semi-finals, and then team 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 play quarterfinals. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was yeah. So I've lost the game now on my app.
Sorry, bro.
So it was blue. It was the Kobojis Spears playing as Sangalife, and yeah. I mean, Cheslin Colby's been playing pretty well for Sangalife, and then the last weekend he also had kicking duties for them.
Yeah. He actually last couple games or a few games that I've watched with him, it's very clear that he is a world-class player, if you understand what I'm saying. Like, and the one thing about Cheslin Colby is if a team's playing badly, he doesn't hang on the wing and do nothing. Like, he really goes to work. So it was great to see. There was a very scary moment where Chesy took a bit of he landed badly in a tackle, and it was a Malcolm Marx tackle. It wasn't a foul or anything, but there was definitely a bit of worry. And Marx still came up to him afterwards to check if he was okay. Like, it was quite interesting. But there were quite a lot of South Africans playing. Unfortunately, he missed quite a few kicks. I think it was 1 from 4 at one stage, finished 2 from 5 or 2 from 6, and they lost the game by 5 points. So he's not going to be too stoked with that. But scored an absolutely brilliant try. Kotaro Matsushima at 15 coming in and just basically put in a perfect grubber, and Chesy just did what he does best, ran fast and scored. But yeah, David Bulbring played, Tyler Paul played, Malcolm Marx we mentioned, Rickus Pretorius was pretty handy. Like, he wasn't setting the world alight, but I mean, he's good 13. He's there. He's everywhere he needs to be. Links well. So yeah. But semi-finals on this weekend. So Chesy will be home soon. Maybe already.
Yeah. And then also, we got news that Danny K is retiring from rugby. So he played his last game at the Strip this weekend.
Yeah, his last home game for Quins. He's been there for 19 seasons. One club man. What I found hilarious was they played Daddy Cool when Danny Care came on. So everyone was singing Danny Care. He had a good game. He came off the bench. It was actually a lot tighter than I think everyone really expected. And we missed one of the best moments ever when Quins got a penalty at the end and Danny Care walked up with the kicking tee, and the referee had initially said there won't be a restart, and then the TMO told him in his ear there will be a restart. So he then gave the Alex Dombrant another opportunity to do something, and there was I can't even remember what the final score was, but it was close. And so they took that moment away from him. We would have been able to see him kicking for poles his last game at the Stoop, but he will probably be involved this next weekend in the final round of the Premiership, but I don't think Quins are making the top four, so that'll be it for him.
Yeah. So yeah, shout out to him for obviously a great and a very long career for Harlequins and for England. Yeah, I think last thing from my side is just keep your eye on the Pacific Four tournament happening in New Zealand.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Mm.
and sorry, New Zealand and Australia. So Canada and the USA have come to the antipodes to play New Zealand, Australia in preparation for the Rugby World Cup happening September. And big result actually, Canada and New Zealand drawing 27 all in New Zealand, and that's after obviously Canada beat them last year. Guys, I'm feeling a small vibe for Canada getting a Rugby World Cup win. Like
Cool.
that would be a big bet. I know England and New Zealand are fantastic, but I don't mind it. Canada obviously is clearly one of the top two,
Yeah.
three teams in the world.
They find a good stretch of form. I think obviously England is heavy favorites at home, and under John Mitchell they have been cooking New Zealand. I think obviously they've got all the stars come back, so Stacey Walker's and then they're all back from the Sarah Hirini,
The
all back
smiling assassin.
from the sevens. I mean, it's all shaped for an England New Zealand final. But I mean, listen, England and Canada. I mean, obviously they had an absolute crazy. I mean, they're the same as the year before the last World Cup, and then obviously France and New Zealand. But I don't know, Thala, I love your bet. I think Canada, obviously, they're peaking at the right time. I think you don't want to catch them in a final because all bets can happen. But it's very hard for me not to see England winning this at home.
Yeah. And I must add, Sophie de Goody looks like she'll make the World Cup.
Oh,
So
Massive. That's a
yeah.
big call.
It's an article last week in Rugby Pass came out saying she's expecting to make it. So if she does make it, and you just add on her to all the other Canadians that are playing well, I think
are we in the World Cup? We qualify, hey?
yes, yes,
Yes,
yes, yes.
yes,
We have
yes.
a pretty good chance of making a quarterfinal actually if things
Right.
go well for us. So yeah, I think it's
I just
Brazil
want
that's our
Aseza
big,
Hele to dominate again.
of course.
Just go and do your thing. We've actually, you're right in that we've got a good chance to make the quarterfinal. I think we've got a lot more depth in our squad than what we used to have, but we've got a hell of a lot of those ladies that were playing in the last World Cup that are still with us. Like we've got a
Yeah,
lot of experience, and that's huge for me. We've definitely got what it takes to upset people. But I just wanted to go back. Like we talk about like Canada being in the shot. England are, and agree with you, are head and shoulders above everyone. But come knockouts, it's a different story. The thing is we've got England, we've got France. Like England are favorites, and then there's a group below them that consists of France, New Zealand, Canada, and then just a little bit below that, or maybe grouped in. I might be wrong, but I would say Australia and USA. Like there are six teams that if they won, it would be a little bit of an upset, but you can see how they did it, if you understand what I'm saying. Like
yeah,
that is the one thing. And it's been playing in England, and England, the only thing that are going to derail England are their nerves. That is the one thing. And I think John Mitchell's probably one of the best people to have coaching you to get rid of that sort of stuff. Like I think he's got a good way of dealing with that. But
yeah,
England are way, way better than almost everyone. And the thing is like New Zealand, France, maybe Canada, you can see them hanging in for like 40 minutes. So if they can push that 40 to 60 minutes and they make the last 20 minutes like a tight game, I think that's when we will see England break if they're going to break. Like I think that's how it will happen.
yeah. It's good that England has a great example from their men's team of hosting a Rugby World Cup and being successful in it. So they can
And
ask
then handing man of the match to an England player after you got booted out in a loss to Australia.
Yeah.
Oof, we've seen the story.
So they can always follow that example. So yeah, please keep an eye on that. The next week's games are New Zealand versus USA. Yeah, and then Australia's playing Canada as well. So yeah, those games are going to be all sort of happening now, and the Women's World Cup's going to be coming to focus quite soon. Gents, I think we ended there. I think that is basically everything. We've covered the rugby world twice over this weekend. But Thank you for listening to the Rugby Biz podcast. Please follow us on our podcast platforms and please, like, share, and subscribe this podcast. Make sure as many people in your rugby circles are listening to it. All those WhatsApp groups, throw that podcast link in there. Please follow us on our social media channels, on YouTube, on X, on wherever you get your rugby news and you get your updates. And yeah, we will try to do a preview later this week for the Champions Cup and Challenge Cup finals. A lot of excitement there. Shaun is chomping at the bit to see Bath, get their European trophy. There's a lot that's going to happen with this Northampton versus Bordeaux match as well. And then, once that will happen, and it's going to be a big weekend of rugby to look forward to. So thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.